Hello. Today we're going to look at solving systems of equations when we have three variables and three equations. Now, if you haven't already watched my video on solving simultaneous equations with two variables and two equations, go ahead and check that out and then come on back and let's take a look. Okay, so here's our system. We have a first equation, second equation, third equation, and they're in terms of the variables x, y, and z. And remember that in general, you need the same number of equations as you have variables in order to solve. All right, so here's how we get to work. Our first plan of action is to combine two of these equations and then another two of these equations so that we eliminate the same variable. So I'm looking at all of this and I see a negative 2z and a 4z. I know if I multiply this equation by 4, I can eliminate those z's. And then I see that I could do it again by multiplying this equation by 2. And now I'm going to have two equations in x and y, and that I know how to do. So that's a lot of talk. Let's get into some action. So my first thing is I'm going to take this equation and rewrite it down here. And then I'm going to take this equation. My goal now is I want to eliminate my z's. So if I multiply the whole equation by 2, I'm going to get negative 4z. When I add those together, it will disappear. So I'm going to take this and multiply by 2, and I'm multiplying the whole thing. And I'm going to take that, and I'm going to put that right below my other equation. And I'm going to add these two together. And I'll remind you, the reason I can do that is if this equals this, then adding this to this side of the equation and this to this side of the equation counts as doing the same thing to both sides of the equation, which I'm allowed to do in algebra. So here I go. And so you'll see, just like I wanted it to, my plus 4z and my minus 4z add together to be no z, or 0. So now I have an equation in just two variables. Okay, so now I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to choose to do it with this equation and this equation. So I'm going to take this equation and write it out. And now if I want to get rid of my z again, I'm going to take this equation and multiply it by 2. And again, I'm going to apply it to everything. And that gives me 2x minus 2y plus 2z equals negative 8. I'm going to write that right under this equation. And now I'm going to add these two together. And so again, my minus 2z and my plus 2z, that lets me eliminate z. And I've got 7x minus y equals 4. So now I have two equations in two variables I can solve here. I see that I can eliminate my y if I just make one of them positive. So I'm going to multiply this equation by negative 1 because a negative times a negative makes a positive. So I distribute that through, and now I'm going to put that under here. And now I'm going to add those two equations together. And I get, which is looking very pretty. And finally, I divide both sides by 5 to find that x equals 1. All right, now I have two equations that just involve x and y, and I know what x is, so now I can find y. So I'm going to grab out my 12x minus y equals 9, and I'm going to substitute 1 for x. And then I'm going to go ahead and solve. So 12 minus y equals 9, subtract 12 from both sides. Negative y equals negative 3, multiply both sides by a negative 1, and I find that y equals 3. So now I have the value of x, I have the value of y, and I have three equations to choose from to plug them into. I'm going to choose this top one because it seems easiest. And when I plug in my 1 for x and my 3 for y, I get 1 minus 3 plus z equals negative 4. I simplify. I add 2 to both sides, which leaves me with z equals negative 2. So my solution set for this system of equations is x equals 1, y equals 3, and z equals negative 2. Not too bad for something that looked so scary. All right, so play around with that, try some other problems, and stay tuned for the next level of how to solve system of equations, which involves matrices. All right. Click on these videos. Consider subscribing to my channel so that you can know when I put out a new video. Leave comments, leave problems that you're struggling with in the comments, and I'll try to make a video for them, and we can keep on mathing.